Your dad's snowmobile club had 340 members in 1987. Last winter, they had 47, and 3 of them actually showed up to groom trails. Because somewhere between the 80s and now, we stopped being a brotherhood and became consumers. We stopped fixing sleds together in someone's garage and started posting Instagram photos at luxury lodges. We stopped helping strangers on the trail and started riding past them. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly when riders stopped caring about each other, how manufacturers turned community into competition, and why your local club is about to fold unless something changes. Stick around, and I'll also show you the one thing you can do this weekend that'll actually make a difference. Let me paint you a picture of 1983. Northern Wisconsin, February, 20 below zero. Your sled throws a track halfway between town and camp. Middle of nowhere. Within 15 minutes, 3 sleds stop. Guys you've never met. One's got spare studs, another's got tools. Third guy radios ahead to the warm-up shelter to let them know you're delayed. They help you limp back to civilization. Won't take gas money. Just say, pay it forward next time. That was snowmobiling. Not because people were nicer back then, because the culture demanded it. You didn't ride past someone broken down, ever. Didn't matter if you were late. Didn't matter if it was dark. You stopped because you knew next week it might be you sitting there freezing. Same thing with clubs. Your local snowmobile club wasn't some bureaucratic organization. It was the center of winter life. Friday nights at the clubhouse, 50, 60 people. Planning trail maintenance. Organizing fundraisers for grooming equipment, teaching kids how to properly cross roads. Guys who worked construction rode with guys who taught school. Didn't matter. Common bond, trail grooming was a point of pride. Veterans showed up at 4 a.m. before their day jobs to drag groomers. Competition between clubs about who maintained better trails. Iron County snowpackers versus Vilas County ridge runners. Serious rivalry about trail quality. Because clubs owned the experience. Riders depended on volunteers. Volunteers earned respect. Now let me show you what killed that. The shift started around 2004 when base prices crossed $10,000. Before that, working class guys could afford to ride. Construction workers, factory guys, teachers. A 1998 Arctic Cat ZR 580 cost $6,200 new. Decent used sled? $2,500. You worked overtime for a month. You bought a sled. But manufacturers kept adding features. Electronic suspension, heated seats, GPS, push-button reverse. Features nobody asked for, but everybody had to pay for because base models disappeared. By 2010, entry-level sleds hit $14,000. Premium models, $22,000. That priced out an entire generation of blue-collar riders. You know what a 2026 Sky-Doo Summit costs? $15,400. That's the starting price. Add studs, a can, handguards, a skid plate? You're at $23,000 before sales tax. For a machine you use 3 months a year. Same money buys a decent used truck you can drive year-round. Which option makes sense when you're making $52,000 a year supporting a family? Did you know, adjusted for inflation, sleds cost 340% more in 2026 than they did in 1995? Wages for skilled trades increased 68% in that same period. The math stopped working. Suddenly, snowmobiling became a rich guy's hobby. Lawyers, doctors, business owners, guys who show up at lodges with $28,000 machines fresh off the dealer floor, never turned a wrench, treat sleds like golf clubs. Nothing against them personally. But they're not the same culture as the Brotherhood. They're consumers. They bought access to winter recreation. They didn't earn it through grease and broken knuckles and helping their buddy rebuild a crank. That cultural shift destroyed clubs from the inside. International Snowmobile Manufacturers Association tracked this decline. The numbers are brutal. In 2000, organized snowmobile clubs across North America had combined membership of 412,000 riders. By 2025, that dropped to 91,000. 78% decline in 25 years. But wait, it gets worse when you look at active participation. Having your name on a club roster and actually doing anything are different things. 2024 survey of 216 clubs across Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, and Maine showed average club has 94 members on paper. Average number who volunteer for trail work, 11. Average who attend monthly meetings, 8. You're looking at clubs held together by 5 to 10 guys in their 60s, doing everything while 80-plus members just pay dues for trail access. This pattern repeated across the snow belt. Clubs that survived the 80s, 90s, 2000s are folding now because the last generation willing to do the work is aging out. And I can tell you exactly why younger riders won't step up. Look, I'm gonna say something controversial. Riders under 40 destroyed club culture. Not all of them, but enough. Because they grew up in an era where trails were always maintained. Gas stations always had premium fuel. Lodges always had Wi-Fi. They think that stuff just happens. Never occurred to them somebody dragged a groomer at 5 a.m. to make those trails nice. Somebody volunteered to run that warming shelter. Somebody organized that fundraiser. They see trails as infrastructure, like roads. Government's job? Except trails aren't government infrastructure. They're private land accessed through agreements, clubs negotiated, maintained by volunteers, clubs recruited, funded through club fundraisers. When clubs collapse, trails disappear. Landowners revoke permission, routes close. Already happening in Vermont, where 16 major trail systems shut down between 2019 and 2025 because clubs couldn't maintain insurance or grooming contracts. 370 miles of trails lost. But younger riders don't connect the dots. They just complain on Facebook that trails suck now and blame clubs for being poorly managed. Here's what poorly managed actually means. Your club has 8 people doing the work of 50. They're exhausted. They're using 20-year-old equipment. They can't recruit help. Real story from Wisconsin. 2024 season. Oneida County Snowmobile Alliance needed volunteers for a weekend grooming marathon before a major rally. 36-hour window to groom 240 miles of trail before 500 riders showed up. Clubs sent emails, posted on Facebook, made announcements at local businesses. 11 volunteers responded. Most were over 60. They groomed in shifts, barely finished in time. Rally happens. 500 riders. Trails are immaculate. Everybody has a great weekend. Club tried to recruit during the rally. Set up a booth. Help us maintain what you love. 3 people signed up to volunteer. 3 out of 500 riders. That's the entitlement. They'll consume, they won't contribute. And wait until you hear what happened when one club tried to charge non-members extra trail fees. That story's coming up, but it'll piss you off. Social media changed everything, and not in a good way. Around 2014, Instagram and YouTube created a new type of rider, the influencer. Guys with 70,000 followers posting highlight reels of powder days, big jumps, summit shots. Makes snowmobiling look like Red Bull adventure sports, which is fine for content, I know, but it warped the culture because suddenly riding wasn't about miles logged or trails maintained or buddies helped. It became about the shot, the clip, the post. You see groups of riders stopped on a ridgeline, not because someone's sled broke, because they're filming content. Guy does a hill climb 17 times to get the perfect angle for TikTok. Meanwhile, 7 sleds are idling behind him waiting. Nobody says anything because confrontation kills the vibe and they want to be in his next post. That's not community, that's performance. This sort of created unrealistic expectations for normal riders. Kid sees YouTube videos of guys shredding untouched bowls in Revelstoke, thinks that's what snowmobiling is. Then, his dad takes him trail riding in northern Michigan. Groomed paths through woods, 40 miles per hour pace, stops at shelters, kids disappointed. This isn't what the videos showed. Doesn't understand that 92% of riding is exactly this. Social trail riding, not extreme backcountry. And that trail riding built the culture, the stops at shelters, meeting other groups, sharing trail info, helping someone who's lost. Can't build community when everybody's chasing Instagram moments. Moving on, the rise of destination riding killed local clubs. Used to be, you rode from your garage or trailer, hit local trails, stopped at local businesses, supported local clubs. Now everybody drives 6 hours to Togwotee or West Yellowstone or the UP for destination experiences. Spend $2,000 on lodging, meals, fuel, just to ride for 3 days somewhere. Cool. Nothing wrong with destination trips occasionally. But when it becomes the only way people ride, local trail systems die. Because local clubs can't compete with backcountry lodge marketing budgets. They can't post drone footage of mountain peaks. They've got flat trails through pine forests. But those boring local trails built the community. You knew the same 30 riders would be at the gas station every Saturday. Same 40 people at club meetings. Same faces at fundraisers. Tight community, real relationships. Destination riding is transactional. Pay for experience. Consume it. Leave. You don't know the other riders. Don't care about their struggles. Won't see them again. It's tourism, not brotherhood. And tourism doesn't maintain trails. Doesn't keep clubs alive, doesn't pass knowledge to the next generation. Minnesota Club tried something in 2022. They organized a vintage ride weekend. Pre-1985 sleds only. No electronics, carbureted engines, mechanical everything. Required riders to do their own maintenance before the event. Inspection, safety check. Idea was to recreate 80s culture. Teach younger riders how things used to work. They promoted it for 6 months, expected maybe 40 riders. 12 showed up. 12. In a state with more than 90,000 registered snowmobiles. Organizer told me most responses were, "My sled's too nice to ride that far," or "Vintage stuff doesn't interest me." They wanted the amenities of modern sledding without the culture that built it. Meanwhile, that same weekend, Lodge in northern Saskatchewan had 800 riders show up for their annual powder rally. People will drive 12 hours and spend $3,000 for a weekend of deep snow riding, but won't ride 30 miles to support a local club event. That's why local clubs are dying. We all know that most states fund trail grooming through snowmobile registration fees, usually $40 to $60 per year. That money goes to state trail programs which distribute grants to clubs for grooming equipment and maintenance. Sounds fair. Everybody who registers contributes, except out-of-state riders don't pay. Non-residents buy temporary trail passes, usually $25 for a week. But get this, Wisconsin maintains 4,300 miles of groomed trails. Grooming costs average $900 per mile per season. That's $3.87 million minimum. Wisconsin collected $4.2 million from sled registrations in 2024. So in-state riders barely cover grooming costs, even if everything goes to maintenance, which it doesn't. Administration, enforcement, insurance, clubs constantly run deficits. Fundraise to cover gaps. Now add out-of-state riders. Tourism Bureau estimates 34,000 non-resident sleds rode Wisconsin trails in 2024. If they bought week passes at $25, that's $850,000 in revenue. Sounds good. Except those 34,000 sleds put the exact same wear on trails as in-state sleds. So costs went up proportionally, but revenue didn't. Several clubs proposed raising non-resident trail passes to $75. match the actual cost. You should have seen the backlash. I feel like something critical died when garage culture disappeared. Knowledge transfer. You learn to ride from your dad, your uncle, your neighbor, somebody older who taught you. Not just how to ride, how to maintain, how to troubleshoot, how to safely cross ice, read terrain, help others. That happened organically through garage sessions, club events, group rides. Older riders took younger riders under their wing, taught them, here's how you check belt deflection. This is how you read snow conditions before a lake crossing. When your sled does this sound, that means this problem. Decades of accumulated wisdom passing down. That transfer stopped around 2010 when garage culture died and YouTube became the teacher. Now kids learn from 12-minute videos, often by people who've been riding for 3 years trying to monetize content. They learn techniques? Maybe. But they don't learn judgment, intuition, the stuff that keeps you alive. The knowledge that kept riders alive for 60 years is dying with the generation that carried it. Modern snowmobiling sort of created this class separation that never existed before. Used to be everybody rode together. Rich guys, working guys. Didn't matter. You all had similar sleds, similar gear, similar capabilities. Now, there's a visible divide. Guy shows up with a 2026 Arctic Cat M8153, $21,000. Rides with a crew and matching gear. $1,000 helmets, heated gloves, airbag systems. They stick together. Don't really mix with guys on older sleds, nothing against them, but the community's fragmented. Working class riders can't afford new machines. They're on 2008 to 2015 sleds. Still capable, still fun, but they feel second class at rallies, at staging areas. Wealthy riders unintentionally create exclusion through expensive group purchases. We're all buying Klim gear this year. You in? $700 jacket, $400 pants, $300 boots. Working guy can't drop $1,400 on an outfit. He's out. Little things like that fracture community. Back in 80s and 90s, guys wore Carhartt and snowmobile suits from Farm and Fleet. Nobody cared. Function over fashion. Now riding gear became status symbol. Another way to display wealth. This created bitter resentment in clubs. Wealthy riders who don't volunteer expect trails to be perfect, complain loudly when they're not. Working class volunteers maintaining those trails get tired of entitled attitudes. Tension builds. Volunteers quit. But that's the new normal. Wealthy riders feel entitled to volunteer labor without contributing. Working riders feel disrespected and exploited. Brotherhood's dead when there's a class war inside clubs. Quick pause. If you felt this tension in your club, drop a comment. I want to know if I'm alone in seeing this. Let me show you the domino effect. When clubs collapse, trails close. Obvious, but it cascades beyond that. Closed trails mean landowners lose incentive to allow access. Snowmobile traffic brought winter tourism. Local businesses benefited. When trails close, tourism declines. Businesses lose winter revenue. Gas stations that survived on sled traffic shut down. Restaurants that did 70% of annual revenue during sled season close. Small-town economies that depended on winter recreation collapse. This already happened in northern New York. Hamilton County had 1,800 miles of interconnected trail in 2005. By 2025, less than 400 miles remain operational. 7 restaurants closed. 4 gas stations, 2 hotels. Town population dropped from 2,800 to 1,400. Young families left, no winter economy, no jobs. All because clubs couldn't maintain trails. Same story playing out across Vermont, New Hampshire, parts of Maine. Trail networks shrinking, rural economies dying, and it's accelerating. Once clubs fold, rebuilding them is nearly impossible. You lose insurance, equipment gets sold, Grooming contracts expire. Landowner agreements lapse. Starting fresh costs hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of organizing. Most communities can't do it. So when a club dies, that trail system is gone, probably permanently. We're watching 60 years of volunteer-built infrastructure disappear. Look, I'm not just here to bitch. If you made it this far, you probably care about fixing this. So, here's what actually works. 3 things. First, join your local club and volunteer. Not just pay dues. Actually show up. They need help grooming? Sign up. Even once. One Saturday morning. They need help at fundraisers? Work the raffle table for 2 hours. They need help with trail marking? Spend an afternoon hanging signs. Your time matters more than your money at this point. Because clubs are dying from labor shortage, not funding shortage. If 50 writers each gave 10 hours per season, clubs would thrive. That's 10 hours, 3 Saturday mornings. You can do that. Second, ride local first. Before you book a destination trip, spend 10 weekends on local trails. Support local businesses, gas stations, restaurants, hotels. Show up to local club events. Because if local infrastructure dies, you'll have nowhere to ride at all. Destination. Riding is dessert. Local riding is the meal. You need the meal to survive. Third, mentor someone younger. Your neighbor's kid wants to learn. Teach him. Someone new to riding has questions. Answer them. Patiently. Guy shows up with a used sled and basic gear. Include him. Make him feel welcome. Pass the knowledge. Pass the culture. Because if you don't, the brotherhood dies with your generation. That's it. 3 simple things anyone can do. Will it save every club? No. Will it reverse all the trends I described? Probably not. But it'll keep your local community alive. And that's worth doing. Here's what happens if we do nothing. 10 years from now, organized snowmobiling exists only in destination areas. Rich riders paying premium prices for curated experiences at luxury lodges. Local trail systems gone, clubs dissolved, volunteers dead or too old. Small town economies devastated. The sport becomes something only wealthy people can access in specific locations. Working class guys? Priced out completely. Brotherhood? Dead. Replaced by tourism. That's the trajectory we're on. Or we choose differently. We choose to value community over content, contribution over consumption. We choose to work for what we love instead of expecting others to maintain it for us. We choose to pass knowledge instead of gatekeeping. We choose to help instead of filming. The Brotherhood existed because previous generations built it. It'll only survive if we rebuild it. Nobody's coming to save this. No manufacturer. No government program. It's on us. I want to hear from 2 groups. First, the volunteers, the guys who actually show up. Tell me how many people are in your club versus how many do the work. I know you're exhausted. Document it. Second, the younger writers who think I'm wrong. Prove it. Tell me about the last time you volunteered, the last trail work session you attended. Because right now the data says you don't, and I'd love to be proven wrong. Drop it in the comments. And if you want more honest breakdowns, hit that subscribe button and check out the next video here.